Hello and welcome to the EEPROM 9 again. Got fucking interrupted by the bloody postman, didn't I? He wasn't delivering any of my shit, so an annoyance. Would it be nice if there's a nice horde of retro computers? Yes. But yeah, we'll stop rambling and go on. But yeah, this is basically a follow-up to a part I did 7 years ago now. Well, according to YouTube. Of Bletchley Park Part 1, How Computers Began. So this is Part 2. You'll have to go all the way back to the beginning of my catalogue to find it and watch all my really early, super shitty videos, which, let's be honest, my video production quality never really got much better than. Good times. So, here we have the two BBC Micros doing an analogue demonstration. Well, one switched off, the other is doing the demonstration, does the squiggly line when you move the joystick. I don't know if this particular demo is still set up 7 years later. I imagine they have them doing something else. Then we came across a PDP. I would love one of these. I mean, I have a BBC Micro sitting under my telly, but I would love one of these old mini. This would get pride of place in the sitting room as far as I'm concerned. This would deserve to be pride of place. It'd be nicer than normal furniture. Stick a nice like retro lamp on top of it. That'd be awesome. Then we have one of the early analog computers. I don't know which one. Hopefully you can read the plaques. I can't because I'm just looking at it in a tiny little window. Just so I know. But you got the nice, if you look there, for the digital display, it's using those incandescent light bulb that shoot for a filter ones. I don't know what they're called off the top of my head. Then we have another analog computer, but this one in this particular case isn't actually switched on. Ah, I've never rotated it 90 degrees. That's just typical. And then we have a number of vintage calculators. Do I have any of these calculators in my collection? I would love. Oh, wait, you can't see my mouse in this. So that's pointless. I would love the Curious or whatever it's called. I don't actually have any of those particular models in my calculator collection. Further down we have a few more, going down to even the Antec, the first digital all-electronic calculator ever made. If I remember correctly, also English. A few more shots. There's a Commodore one back there, which is pretty similar to one I've got, the PB70 or whatever the bloody hell it's called. This one still works. Found it in a skip at uni, and we've been at uni. Never was able to recover the back cover to it. I could see it in there, but I just couldn't reach it. I tried and I tried. I needed one of those rubbish pickers. Get down into the bottom. Another shot of the lovely vintage calculators. Then we have a punch tape reader machine. Probably going to be IBM with a please do not touch. Don't want your grotty fingers ruining it, do you? Then you got some nice old teletype terminal equipment. Oh, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to have all this sort of stuff? Then we have a core memory module, which is pretty damn neat if you ask me. Then there's an old like video editing platform or video transfer platform for transferring the old 16 whatever millimeter film they used to use in the old school video production to more so it can be broadcasted and whatnot. Then we have an old mainframe system that once upon a time my dad actually used to work on. One of these systems. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it was a Unix based system. There was actually someone working on it there at the time that I spoke to, but this is all 7 years ago, so I don't remember any of the details. But yeah, the old school, you can see one of the disc platters from one of the old school removable hard drives, like the Caddy hard drives, which is just a brilliant design. Just remove the discs and the rest of it is all there. It's a shame they don't make hard drives like that anymore. That'd be quite neat. Then you've got one of the terminal units linked up to it. A few examples of dismantled hard drives, just to give you an example of how they've evolved over time. When I actually first saw these, I thought they actually ran in those little plastic cases. You'd like mount the plastic cases on top, and then they'd actually run inside that. But no, you place them inside. So on my one of my Half-Life 1 levels I made, which I think is on this channel somewhere, you can actually see in one of the mainframe rooms there's been the little plastic cases there spinning around on top of the hard drive units. Ah, good times. Then we have some more mainframe goodness. I can't even read what that says. System 25. Then we have some more a whole desk filled with terminals, and also some more mini computers underneath. Notice mini computers because they don't take up an entire room. They're just like the size of a small fridge, like a little fridge like I had at uni under my desk. And this is part of an air traffic control system. This was one of the radar monitors that we used to monitor where the planes are. One of the guys there was currently working on fixing one of the switch mode power supplies for it, which was a pretty beefy one, outputting some nasty voltages. He warned against working on switch mode power supplies. What have I done since? Worked on switch mode power supplies. But yeah, here's what the console units that this would have actually gone to. Then we have some nice valve sections. I would love to get hold of some of these old valve sections. They're really nice. Some more valve parts of old early like 50s computers. Frente Mark 1. Frente is a British electronics company that is, well, like all British electronic companies, defunct decades ago. More valves for old retro computer. A few transistorized and core memory down the bottom there. And then we have one of the little workshop area where they took a lot of the equipment to be worked on. And the big unit in the middle there was like a punch tape mini computer. I think from the 1960s that they're working on repairing. I chatted with the technicians for quite a while on it. Then you've got the rest of the... I don't know if this is all to do with the air traffic control system, but I think it was parts of it. The reel-to-reel tapes, PDP systems next to it. And if you look down in the corner, there's the monitor they were working on. In the bottom left corner, with nice high voltage warning labels. Can I remember the name of this computer? Because this is quite a famous British computer that was made. The Witch, that's it. This was the Witch computer that they. I can't remember if they'd recently finished restoring it or if they were working on restoring it at the time, because they were still doing the Colossus rebuild, which they've since finished. And you can see down in the bottom corner there just a Dracon tube counter in a little box just spinning round. I actually have a Dracon tube sitting in here. One day I will get round to actually making it work. It's in my Nixie stuff box where I'm working on building a Panplex watch, high voltage units, some old commie chips for driving Nixies, SMT, and a commie Dracon tube that one day will get working. One day. Along with some Nixie commie modules. Yeah, because of the proximity to Russia and the communist bloc you are in Europe, a lot of the Star Plus military stuff that is very readily available is basically old commie era stuff, because they just manufactured loads of it. They didn't manufacture it to demand, they just manufactured it to keep people in jobs, basically. Then we have some more bits. This is a room that the Witch was in. I didn't actually find all this the second time round. They even moved it all, or... because I did actually go back here a second time. And then we have another shot of the Witch computer. Then we have the old teletype terminal mainframe units. My mum actually worked on something like this at a bank. I believe I actually snapped a photo of it unintentionally. And it might have been this one, it might have been another one. But yeah, my mum was the fastest on it according to her records. And she worked in a bank in the 70s. And yeah, they had, at the end of the day, they'd go to the back room, type in all what the figures that had changed and update the main mainframe back at the bank. And then one of her colleagues, she had to find out, was a gay bloke who always used to try and chat up the other lads, and she just observed this happen over and over again. He was an older bloke, so it was a little bit dodgy. And then we have more bits of that system. Another punch card creator, the old school punch card creators. Write your punch cards for you. And then an IBM 5150. We have one here we recently restored. A few months back we got it working. They have a motherboard sitting up there with the bits and some software for it. But they've got the original software there. I have DOS 3.30 for it, and I didn't get any of the software for it, sadly. So I'll keep an odd eye out on IBM 5150 software with time, but the main thing is I've got it working. There's still few things I want to do, like get it working the expansion bay, try and get the hard drives operational, that kind of jazz, but I has not been successful with that yet. But I'm thinking I might today actually pull it off there and start doing those things and just messing around with the internal configuration. This is PDP 8. Fully transistorized, one of the early microcomputers, mini mainframes, or mini computers, that's the term I was looking for. Then we have some old classics. Believe it or not, this was an Atari ST 520 FM. Next to it, I can't really see the logo on that machine. Then you've got another machine above it. The one above that, I believe that research machine was an old Unix one, which you've got two Oryx next to it, and then you've got the New Brain below it, and then behind the New Brain was an Acorn Electron. So out of those I have the Atari ST and Acorn Electron. And then there's an Acorn Atom bridging the point between two shelves. This is the kind of setup I want to do in my own place. Then above those, a Dragon 32, a Commodore PET, but a later model because it's got the full-size keyboard and numeric keypad. And then an Apple II. Now, I don't know if that's an Apple IIe or an Apple II. I can't see specifically. Then we go on to the other shelf, where we have at the bottom an Apricot, two Commodore, no, not two Commodore 64s, a VIC-20 at the front and a Commodore 64 behind it. Above that we get into the territory. I do have a Commodore 64, but it's the C64C variant. I picked it up for a $5 because it was apparently dead. Turned out to be perfectly working. Score! Above that, an Amstrad CPC464. I'm still trying to get hold of one of those. Those keep being elusive. Basically, I keep losing on the bidding wars. A Sinclair ZX81 next to it, which anyone who's watched my channel knows I have one of those. I got it for about 14 quid because they mislabeled it as a ZX Spectrum. And I guess no one who was interested in ZX81s was looking in that particular point at the time. So I got that because usually, looking at going rate, roughly about 50 quid for one. On the with very basic stuff with it. That would have cost, that what I got there was probably at the time worth 50 quid, probably worth more now. I don't know what the one is behind the CPC. Then you've got the Acorn BBC Micro with two co-processor units next to it. I don't know what variants of co-processor units, because they did extra 6502 Z80, so you could get CPM abilities, ARM processors. The expandability on the BBC Micro is really quite mind-blowing, what you can actually have it do. It's quite an impressive piece of tech computer kit for the time, and really is very comparable to the original PC, and in fact probably has more expandability than the original IBM PC. See? It's a shame it ended up being a dead standard. Then we have an Apple Lisa at the top. These are basically non-existent, like super rare. They weren't that successful because they were so horrifically expensive. And surprise, surprise, Apple's finding that making their equipment, all their phones and that, horrifically expensive, is leading to them not selling well. No shit, Sherlock! People can't afford to spend $1,000 on a phone every year. Then you've got a ZX Spectrum at the very back with a few of the interfaces. I can't tell which ones they are. In front of it we've got a Spectrum Plus, which I actually have one of those over there. A Spectrum QL, the ill-fated business machine, which was never successfully used. Those seem to command some amazing crazy prices on eBay. Then you've got, I can't remember what that one's called, but it's like the 512 or something. But yeah, once again, I can't really see what that is. Mastertronic or something. It's like unreadable. Then we have below an IBM 5150, but this one only has a single floppy drive and a green screen monitor. And then above it, the original Apple Macintosh. Like, I think it was 128 kilobytes originally. And then people looked at it expanding. Steve Jobs did not like that. It's like, it's a shame really. Apple could have been so much more. They could have followed the Apple II route and like followed an expandable, upgradable platform, and they went with the Macintosh format. It's just like, and even though back then it wasn't successful compared to the original Apple II line, you know, there wouldn't have been a failing computer company in the 90s if they'd stuck with what was successful and built on that. Especially with the Apple IIe's and others that came along. Then you've got the original IBM PC Portable at the bottom, and Osborne 1. I would love one of these old style luggable PCs, because they are absolutely awesome. Above it we have a Toshiba T, I think that might be the 3100SX, which I have but I blew up. The Amstrad Portable. Sadly I didn't get that at uni, that got given to someone else. Someone else took interest in that. But I did get my fair share of cool stuff when that room was cleared out. A Commodore 64 Portable above the Amstrad. Next to it, I can't really see what machine that is, but that's one of the old laptops sitting on top of a disk drive bank. I can't tell which one. And then above it, a K-Pro 2, one of the machines that's in my Holy Grail list that, well, it was never popular over in the UK, so good luck getting that. Saying that, I do go to Chicago every year, so there's opportunities of getting hold of some of this rare stuff over here, but common in the US, which I need to speak to my boss about ordering some bits on eBay and then having them delivered to the Chicago office, and then I can just come and pick them up, or when they come down, they can bring them down in the suitcase. That'd be pretty neat, actually. And then there's an Apple Portable in the bottom left corner, which I don't think I snapped a shot of. Yes, I did actually, because it's there. Then you've got an IBM laptop next to it. I forget which model it is. Then you've got the Compaq Portable 3 below it, next to another portable Mac below the first Mac laptop. Then we get to the machines on the walls. We have an Epson HX20 right at the top, which that one doesn't have the memory expansion unit on the side that mine does. Then you've got one of the Sharp pocket computers below that, followed by another one. There's a few like Psion organisers. There's actually one of those. There's a Cambridge 7088 up at the top below the Psion 2 organiser. There was a version 1, but that's a bit rarer. And then the other ones are a bit hard to see. There's a few more modern ones and whatnot. Then we get into the gaming rooms, and you've got Commodore 64, the Acorn Archimedes, an Amstrad CPC 464, a Sinclair ZX81, a Commodore Amiga, I think that's an A500, looks like it. Then you got a Mac, a BBC Micro in the centre, and then on to the right side is ZX Spectrum. Most of the Spectrums that are out there are the 48K ones. They got the best compatibility and support. Then there's another shot of them. The Mac on the left, for those of you who don't know. BBC in the centre. That one's got the dual drive. I actually have a BBC Micro drive, but it's dead. It's in the garage. Then we have some more like mini computers and mini mainframes and all that good jazz with 8-inch floppies. This is like one of their storage rooms, and actually some of the stuff in the storage rooms was actually plugged in because I actually switched on like the HP mainframe units, which like flicked switch, all the lights just came on. Switch you back off just in case you're not supposed to be switched on. So some of that was actually hooked up and working. There's a Next computer there. There's the HP computers I switched on. They're right in the middle there. Well, I switched one of the units on there all plugged in. Which I was not expecting for a computer to just sit in the store, and then you got a vintage calculator on one of the early 70s early home computer prototypes before it really became a market. Then you've got these, which I think were these. No, these weren't Xerox versions, but I think they were similar. But Xerox just built it as a thing to see whether it was possible, and then things like the Apple Lisa and whatnot spawned from that. Got some more mini computers and mainframe parts. Some more teletype terminals back of the units. And we've got some more PDPs. I would love a PDP rack. I really would. That would be awesome. One day. And then you've got some more teletype terminal units, some more. It's just beautiful. I don't even know what all this because when it comes to mainframe kit, I don't actually know a lot about it. It's also the kind of stuff that's kind of like impossible to find on the eBay. Or when it does pop up, it's like horrific money. Then you got one of the early dumb terminals that was actually a proper monitor. I forget what it's called. But this is basically the one that the Fallout terminals are based on. Then we've got some more terminal units. Even IBM terminals, and the IBM tower case over there hooked up to the monochrome monitor. Then we have the BBC Micro room. I had a good long chat with the guy who was in this room. There he is. You can see him there with a ponytail. I had a good long chat with him. He was actually working on fixing some on that desk that he's talking to the other bloke on. And this was the little workshop area where he's working on fixing and restoring them. BBC Masters, the whole lot. Co-processor units. All that good jazz. And there was like table of masters, tables of BBC micros. I think that's my dad there, because he came along with me the first time. In the gaming room, he kept dragging me away as he didn't fancy sitting there watching me game away. Then we have a display of just random misc stuff, joysticks, an early word processing thing with that 1-hand unit. I forget what that's called. It's on oldcomputers.com if you want more info. Early mice, various random keyboards. I'm not sure what keyboard that one that's dismantled is from. Then some hobbyist kits. There were loads of these released. They also tend to go for stupid money these days on eBay. Then we got some more like mainframe cards and stuff, and there's a few bits out of actual normal PCs, like a Pentium 2/Pentium 3 motherboard there. That's probably a Pentium 3 looking at the ports on the back. Then we have an old tape thing up there. I don't know what that is. Old small print at a small little 5-inch CRT monitor, probably monochrome. I actually have a 5-inch monitor in the garage that I want to hook up and use as a Acorn Electron portable. I've got a spare motherboard, so I technically own 5 Electrons now. Some more random misc bits, dismantled printers, all that good jazz. Just sort of show you inside how they work. Daisy wheels, that kind of jazz. Some more bits of mainframe cards, RAM. I think this one particular one was focused on memory. Yeah, memory. Some of these are labelled, some of them are not. Then we've got core memory. So yeah, this whole shelving was based on memory, core memory, integrated circuit. Was there a bubble memory unit on there? I don't think there was. I mean, there's delay line. I can see that on there in the top left. Then we just had another gaming room filled with like machine off a machine. In fact, this one was specifically Acorn machines. Did I not get shots in there? Oh, maybe I didn't. But yeah, you got Acorn Electron with a number of expansions, BBC Masters, various versions, an Acorn A4 laptop. I would love one of those in my collection. They're one of those things that's like really rare. Floppy drives, so this is more sort of non-volatile memory. So you've got IBM floppy drives, 8-inch floppy drives, all that good jazz. Then going down to the lower shelves, old school hard drives. Then you've got optical media, tapes, varying types. Now the amount of storage platforms there have been over the years, literally there's like loads of obscure ones you've never even heard of. I'd recommend looking at Techmoan's videos for that. He seems to be pretty good at finding all these obscure formats and cataloguing them. Nice to see my bin has ejected a pack of biscuits wrapper. We've got old school terminal equipment here. Even the Amstrad terminal thing above it, the telephone thing, if you remember when that was released in, I think it was the early 2000s. The French terminal system that was only recently shut down. I almost got hold of one of those once. Some more terminal bits, the old school telephones, the rotary phones. My babysitter actually had one of those rotary phones that she had in the toy box for us all to play with, just the cable calf. I used to enjoy like just has a really satisfying mechanism. Then we had like the early internet room, so we just have a terminal, which I couldn't really get to do much, hence whatever the message that is. Then that one I think says disconnected or something. Some more mainframe kits. There's the 2 terminals. The Harrier jet they have out front, which is, I don't know the current status of that, whether they still have that out front or not. But it'd be nice to see it get back into flight-worthy condition again. And then we're into the World War II code break. Not World War II, this is sort of spying bits. Going into early stuff. Eddystone radio. I got an Eddystone radio, not that exact model, but I think a newer variant. That's one of the valve variants. But yeah, this gets into a lot of old radio equipment, some teletype terminals that would have been used over that kind of kit. Transmit back to base. But there's a whole load of stuff on spying and espionage and whatnot there. Some of the old buildings, which they've thankfully actually been able to get the funds to actually restore now, because they were begging for them when we were there. The old huts. This is getting back to the sort of World War II stuff goodness again. There's Alan Turing's desk. Here's some of the old huts that they were done in. I can't remember what all this was. There we go, Murray Cold. There we go, it's written on it there. I'll leave that on so you can sort of pause it and read. Here we go, here's the detail. I'll leave this on, you can pause it and read through it. Oh, looks like I didn't rotate the image again. But yeah, these are all sort of like Morse code things and that by the looks of it. And then we have more clock. This must be the second time we went back, when it was when I went back with my mate Yusuf, who has and will never appear in a YouTube video for the fact he doesn't want to. Colossus in all its glory. It's amazing what they've done, piecing it together from just what remained of records that people pocketed when it was all being destroyed. Because let's be honest, there's people like me out there who just wouldn't let their work be destroyed. I would be one of those types to like pocket it, hide it away, so future generations could get it years later. Because, you know, when you've worked on it, you don't want to see it destroyed. Then we got the Antac calculator, the mainframe, whatever this is. Wire wrapping. This was at the back of one of the hard drive units. This might have been on the way out. Just grabbing a few last shots. Yeah, we're at the end of the album. No, we're not at the end of the album yet. Here we go, it's about where we were. Some more of the old terminal units. This was back in that storage room we were looking at earlier. Some good old vintage calculator. BBC the Doomsday Project. A whole thing of archiving the 1980s. There'll be a website somewhere now where all this information that was on the Doomsday Project will be online that you can look at. Because these days, the Doomsday Project is known as the Internet. But yeah, quite ambitious for the 1980s. And of course, all run by that. Laser discs, because they needed a decent capacity storage format. Laser discs never really took off in the UK. I've never actually seen them or heard of them apart from like... I think they were only big in America. They're basically non-existent over here. Then we have that yellow PC was the last Acorn machine ever released. We've got a few RISC machines next to it. These ones literally had the whole collection of everything made by Acorn. Archimedes of various types and models. Going all the way back to that unit there in the big grey box was like one of the first ARM processors ever produced, and it's one of 2 prototype machines, and they actually have both of them. It's just the other one is This one's the complete unit, and the other one is just like in ragtag pieces. Then we have the A4 laptop. Another one of the prototype ARM processor development platforms. One of the BBCs, but this is the BBC which has the separate keyboards. A Master. I don't know what the grey unit is behind the Master. Acorn Electron with the +3. I think that, yes, that weird looking machine was an ill-fated business machine they tried to release. Then you got standard BBC Micro, Acorn Atom. Then you've got like the MC15, or no, that was the Sinclair one that was called the MC15. This was like the Acorn 1 or something, and then that whole tower block of rack equipment was basically an Acorn 1 which had been built into a full rack expansion system. Then we have another old school terminal unit, car park, someone's old Nissan, the Harrier jet again. A lot of the buildings around when I did go there were abandoned and in dilapidated states waiting to be restored. Bicycle storage, and this was actually done in the old school bicycle storage. Interesting fact, actually, Alan Turing used to ride here to work wearing his gas mask because he was apparently suffered from hay fever. Some more of the outhouses in dilapidated states. This would be a great place to go doing urban exploration, actually, and of course you want to speak to the museum and get permission and all that. You don't want to like break into these and potentially damage historic buildings. I can't remember what this one is. I think this might be one of the Lorenz machines, which the Germans used and we used Colossus to decipher. Then we have the bomb, which was an early electromechanical machine. This is the one that Alan Turing basically designed. This is getting back to the gold Enigma stuff, which is all really fascinating. If you're ever down near sort of the Cambridge areas, I really recommend looking. No, it's not Cambridge. Although they do have their own computer museum, so if you're in the Cambridge area, visit there. This is in the Milton Keynes area, so if you're ever around there, definitely give Bletchley a visit. This was one you could actually do and play with, which was actually pretty neat to play with and see how, actually get an actual visual thing of how the bomb worked and what it did. He actually did a live demo for us, which was pretty cool. Then there's actually the wiring inside. It's like the wiring clusterfuck from hell. And that would have all been hand wired. Someone would have had to sit there and individually wire it and check it. It would have taken hours. And these weren't built on mass scale either. And of course all this equipment was destroyed at the end of the war, which is kind of tragic that there's no real original examples that exist. Thankfully people pocketed the documentation. And now we are not at the end. And there's a like memorial thing to Alan Turing. Once again, all wonky and not upright. The Enigma. I'm wondering if we're going back over all the stuff we went over before. Hang on. In the original video. 7 years ago. This is the thing when you don't leave something, don't use something for 7 years, is you completely forget what it's supposed to be. My pictures, Bletchley. Oh no, this is from my second visit. I'll put that there. Okay, so we're alright. Yeah, because I ran through with USAF on the World War II history side. I don't think we spent quite so much time there because I'd already been in that part. The Colossus rebuild project. This was actually another part of it they were working on, which I think actually pulled in the data from the Lorenz machines that was being transmitted over the air. This was the equipment that pulled in the information. It's really quite fascinating when you go over it, and then the full Colossus rebuild. Mark II. The Mark I, I think, was built just before 1945, like in 1944, 43. So we were decoding the, yeah, Mark II sort of came out 1944, 1945. Mark I was like closer to 1940. And that is part of how you win a war. If you know what your enemy is doing, you can counteract them. And that's why radar was such a successful technology, and why we were able to build beat a far better equipped air force. Because we could make sure the planes were where they needed to be, when they needed to be, and away from line of fire in the night. From bombing runs and that, where a lot of the airfields and that down in Kent were temporary. The oscilloscope, danger high voltage, that's a very real thing because valves run on hundreds of volts. I believe the top signal was a clock signal, and then another one was one of the latching relay signals. But a Hameg scope. I can't tell what model that is, but that looks very similar to my Hameg scope. Variac system underneath. They have a plaque on it, Variac. Here's the reader system because it used punch tape. Then of course we have parts of the various like CPU modules and that. Another old school teletype terminal computer. An Apple II of varying kinds next to an Apple Lisa. Another BBC Micro of the floppy disk drive. My floppy disk drive did actually come in a case, but I didn't realise what it was at the time. One of the early, I think that's the SE, the Macintosh SE. The Wall of Glory again. Yeah, we're basically going back through what we've already been through. But I'm getting slightly better. I wonder. No. Some stuff stays in the same display for years. Oh yeah, you can see the guts there of like the machine. The computer room again. Arcade machine in there this time. I can't remember exactly when this was. When were these photos taken? 2013. So yeah, these ones aren't quite 7 years old. They're still quite old. When I die, I'll have to have my collection donated to somewhere like Bletchley Park or something. An original Space Invaders cabinet that unfortunately was switched off when we got to it. Arr! The next cube, which we actually got to play with. Some more core memory. The BBC Micro. Ah, we're back at the beginning. And that, my friends, is part 2 of my Bletchley Park visit. I hope you enjoyed. I didn't go through any of what I was going to talk about originally because that was 7 years ago and that's long gone from my brain. I don't remember what happened last week, let alone 7 years ago. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'm going to go and do something else now.